Well, good morning again, Bayshore kids and families. I'm so glad you guys are able to meet like this and have these resources. I hope you were able to check out Mary and Martha a little while ago. That video is on there. It's about 8 minutes and some scriptures on there for you guys to study. But we're going to continue that story. So Mary and Martha were sisters, and they also had a brother. This brother's name was Lazarus. And Lazarus was very much loved by God. But one day Lazarus got sick. And so we're going to pick that up in John chapter 11. Now it's a longer passage, but there's a short video to follow. So let's dive in together and see what we have. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." Remember I said that Jesus loved Lazarus right here. The one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, yet when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Now, if you were sick and you wanted somebody to come and help you, you'd probably want it right away, not a couple days later, right? Then he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you, and yet you are going back there?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? A man who walks by day will not stumble, for he sees by this world's light. It is when he walks by night that he stumbles, for he has no light. After he had said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. Now Jesus is saying that Lazarus has already died. He's not really sleeping. So then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Now Jesus is saying, because I let him die for your sake. You just wait, just watch. It's going to be really amazing. Then Thomas said to the rest of his disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." There's some faith right there. Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Wow. Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world." And after she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher is here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." They loved their brother. They were sad that he had died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Hey, just so you know, that's the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Verse 38. Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, "the sisters of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." He probably stank. Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. But I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." 4 days being dead. And Jesus went and he spoke to his God and he prayed, "God, thank you for listening." And Lazarus rose from the dead, out of the grave. He probably still smelled. He was covered in his wraps from when they bury somebody, but he was alive. He was alive and well, and people could celebrate. Now I want you to think about what God can do in your life this week. I know it's crazy out there. I know there's a lot of things going on. But God is still in control, and he still loves you, and he can still do miracles. Amen? Check out this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Well,
Mary and Martha sent for Jesus immediately, but for reasons all his own, Jesus delayed answering their plea for several days, so when he finally arrived, it was too late. Jesus assured Martha that it was not too late, but Martha was skeptical, partly because she'd prepared her brother's body for burial several days prior. Seeing Martha's doubt, Jesus was quite frank with her, asking, "Do you believe in me?"
"I believe that you're the Messiah, the Son of God."
Martha was taken aback by what she had said, and even more so at how deeply she believed it. She suddenly felt compelled to fetch Mary.
"Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died."
Seeing his beloved friends in such anguish overwhelmed him. Jesus asked to be taken to Lazarus. Mary and Martha assumed that Jesus intended to mourn and pray over the tomb. But when they arrived, Jesus had the tomb opened and called for Lazarus to come forth.
wow, I could really use a cup of coffee.
Lazarus! Hi, Lazarus.
Really glad to see you. Over there.
Though there were threats on Jesus' life, he and his disciples returned to check on Lazarus. But this time, instead of intently listening at Jesus' feet, Mary anointed his feet with perfumed oil.
That's for...
Martha was livid. This perfume was for embalming and was extremely expensive. Not to mention, they'd already wasted an entire bottle on Lazarus.
Mary,
that moment, Martha began to understand.
Never mind. Goodbye. Goodbye, Jesus. Goodbye, Thaddeus. I love a good party.
We may never see him again.
I know.
On that day, both Mary and Martha recalled Jesus' words, that there is need of only one thing.
It's pretty neat to see how much Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. So much that he spent some of his last days with them. And they recognized how important he was. And they loved him so much back. And there was this amazing relationship that you can have with him. Take some time to pray this week and to love God like Mary and Martha and Lazarus. See you guys later. Bye.